Mihi kia koutou to the Kaiapoi-Tuahiwi Community Board meeting here in Tuahiwi, first time. Welcome to everybody. Do we have any apologies? Sandra, okay. So Sandra Stewart as an apology. I'll move that the apologies be accepted. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Philip. Seconded by Philip. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest this afternoon? No? Okay. Confirmation of minutes. I recommend that the minutes be confirmed. I'm imagining that everyone's had a look at them. So I'll move a seconder to confirm the minutes.
You can.
Neville, seconded by Neville. Oh,
Philip can.
No, sorry.
We have to go back to the...
Oh, he can't.
Have to back up. Sorry, I forgot.
We'll have to go back.
We'll make that... All right, so moved by me, seconded by John, that the apologies. All those in favour?
All right.
Against? Carried. Thanks for pointing that out, Neville. Right, so confirmation of minutes. I'll move that the minutes be confirmed.
Everything.
And seconded by Neville. All those in favour?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just a small correction. Councillor Stewart and myself are noted as being present and also in attendance. So I think we probably should just be in attendance rather than present. And that will remind me not to set any motions.
I wonder what we usually do. Either or.
It should be in attendance.
It should be in attendance, all right. Okay, so we'll make that alteration. So, all those in favour that these are a true and correct record of the meeting from August the 16th? All those in favour? Against? Carried. And matters arising from the minutes. Are there any matters arising? It's a long time ago now. Doesn't look like it. All right. Right, we don't have any deputations and presentations or any adjourned business. So we'll start off with item 6, a report on the Parnham Lane and Vickery Street give way. Joanne. Hi Joanne, welcome.
I have to apologise. I'm sorry, Shane was going to talk to us one back. He's just running a little bit late. But in short, this report is seeking approval to install a give-way control at the intersection of Parnham Lane and Vickery Street. This is to support the greenway which was installed in this location. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll just take the report as read.
Does anyone have any questions? It looks fairly straightforward. I certainly don't have any queries about it. Martin.
Through Madam Chair, just wondered, Joanne, have you had any update on traffic volumes and speeds on Vickery Street since the greenway's been put in, and also on Kaiapoi Street?
Not at this time. What we would normally do is do a speed count here about 6 months after the work's finished, so we'll aim to do that probably just before, so around November, then look at what's happening with the speeds.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, would someone like to...
I'm here.
John? So we've got recommendation that the board receives the report, approves the installation and circulates this report, A, B and C. Brent, seconded by Brent. Do you want to speak to it, John?
Just very briefly, I think it's a tidying up exercise, and I went and had a look, and I think it's going to be well worthwhile. I think it's correct that it could well become a shortcut, and this is just a good measure to keep things safe.
Okay, very good. All right. Brent, would you like... Okay, all right. So we'll move then. John's moving, seconded by Brent, to A, B and C. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Joanne. Right. Item 6.2, Kai Poi Parking Restrictions Review. We've got Vanessa and Shane.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this report seeks approval to engage with affected businesses on the proposed Kai Poi Parking Restriction changes. So in May this year, AgLeague's transportation consultants completed a review of the Kai Poi commercial area parking restrictions, just to see if they were still appropriate and if we needed to update any of those to maximise parking efficiencies. You'll see that they assessed in that report 27 areas. They've recommended 12 areas of restriction changes, and staff are proposing that we accept 8 of those. We just want to now engage with businesses on those 8 restriction areas, just to see if there's any impact or what the feeling is from businesses before we should take that recommendation through to the District Plan and Regulation Committee for approval. So just seeking your input on that, so I'll take the report as read and happy to take that question.
Neville, then Chris, and then Al, and then Brent.
Vanessa, when you talk about consulting with people or businesses, you are talking about owners and lessees?
Yes, I guess it'll be the shop owners as well as the lessees, yes. Yeah, we'll engage with both, yeah.
Right, thank you.
Chris.
Joey, Vanessa, was there any thought given to making the main street between Hilton Street and Raven Creek 30 minutes? I see you've taken it back to 60.
Yeah, we didn't really look at, no, it was just the 60, I think, is what ABS had recommended.
Would there be any thought in
We could certainly...
just that particular?
Yeah, we probably need to just follow that with ABS. We can certainly consider it, but particularly the broader impact.
With maybe mobility parks
Yeah.
on that main street? Green Park? Thank you.
Al.
My question's been covered, Madam Chair.
Okay. Brent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It follows on from Chris in terms of mobility. Is there sufficient mobility parks for this for the CBD area, and who decides as to the volume of mobility parks?
So I guess we didn't assess this as part of this review. As you'll see, that wasn't a particular thing we looked at. I believe that's been addressed in the accessibility strategy review in terms of the broader district. So this is just Kai Poi centric. Whereas we will consider that as part of that review, and not the whole district wide. And Shane, have you got any comments about that in terms of legal standards and stuff?
It's a little bit more needs-based, so there's not really a strict guideline to follow in terms of numbers.
And a further question, Madam Chair. In relation to employees parking on the main street, it seems to be the major issue, and certainly I raised that with council staff a couple of months ago. When they did the assessment of the parking in that area, did they look at how many parking spaces were taken up by actually employees of the CBD?
No, because what they actually did was use our parking survey that we did in Kai Poi in the past. So that was done in 2020, and they actually used that as the reference source for this particular review. So we didn't actually look, well, within that survey there is actually sort of long-term parks in there in terms of people who could be overstaying. It does state if they counted the same park within that 8-hour period of the review, it'll be in the report. But particularly, they didn't go through and do a detailed analysis of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Philip.
Thanks, Vanessa. On page 60 of AgLeague's report, and I think it's on 64 as well, are you proposing to exclude the 4 EV parks from the 120-minute restriction?
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm diligent, but it's page 60. 7.2 of AgLeague's report. I suspect this may have been prepared before the EV parking sites were installed.
Yeah, it was prepared before the EV was installed. No. We'll leave that as well, P120. Right, I just want to read that quickly, remind myself. No change, yeah.
Is P120 appropriate, bearing in mind these are slow charges?
Yeah, we'll keep that consistent. So as you may know, the Rangiora parks at P120 elsewhere. And they seem to be working fine in Rangiora. We've actually had information just around the performance of those EV parks in the Rangiora and Super Centre, and they're working fine as P120. So we'll retain that. But we're happy to monitor that on a yearly basis.
Right, okay. Any other questions, Al?
Vanessa, when you do a survey like this, have you got any way of telling which cars are employees and which are punters?
No, I guess it's just the telling thing will be if someone's parking, say, on High Street in Rangiora and that same park's there, for 8 hours of the day or some other place in the town centre, that's the only way we'll know, basically.
Okay. Neville?
Just further on that, some years ago when we first started putting time limits on, staff actually, when doing their consulting, talked about staff and where they parked and asked is that included in the consultation? Because it was extremely helpful when they did that, and they actually got people to move out further by making the suggestions.
We have actually run just in relation to this quite a few flyer drops around the town centres, trying to incentivise workers to actually park in other working or sort of long day parking areas. So we've done that multiple times, but sort of success, we have immediate success immediately after the drop, but then behaviour sort of diverts back to what they were doing previously. But we're about to run another one in Kaiapoi, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just wonder whether is it worthwhile you're including that the suggestive selling of the owners and particularly the owners actually, rather than the lessees, suggesting to them that their staff park much further away and free up the car parks because they don't seem to enforce it much themselves, which is a crazy thing to do.
Yeah, we've certainly tried.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a mover? Brent? And seconded by Al. Brent, do you want to speak to it?
It's self-explanatory on it.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yep. And no, Al. All right. So we'll move 6.2 A, B, C, D, E. Moved by Brent, seconded by Al. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, now we've got 6.3. Scott Morrow, who's going to talk about the list of pre-approved road names. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Yes, so the purpose of my report for today is for the Kaiapoi-Tuahiwi Community Board to approve the updated list of pre-approved road names and to look at monitoring this on an annual basis. The road name list, as people will know, is used for developers when selecting road names for subdivisions and things like that. So I'm happy to take any questions you may have, and I take it you've had the opportunity to read my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions?
A, B and C. I'll move A, B and C.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. So do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconded by Neville. Do you want to say anything, Chris? No. Neville? No. Self-explanatory. All right. All those in favour? Against? Carried. There we are, Scott. Very simple.
First time road names are coming through here. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, 6.4. We've got some applications for the discretionary grants. Okay.
Yep. Good day, everyone. Nice to be back in your illustrious company. Must have done something right. The first one, Reflections Trust. This is one that you get on a regular basis annually, so I won't bother to tell you anything about it, but you know it's probably better than I do. It takes a village hub. This is a new one, which has been quite an exciting development, I feel. I hadn't ever read about the It Takes a Village until I wrote the report, and I did a bit of research. So I think they are quite a valid reason to try and get themselves known by doing this exercise. Cure Boating Club. Also a very good project. You know, we've been quite supportive of the boating club, and I was amazed that they could get propellers for that cheap, but I don't know much about boating. And then the Life Education Trust Canterbury. I'm sure we've all seen those big classrooms on wheels. They look like they've quite a lot of fun, and I think the kids get quite a lot of enjoyment and learn something at the same time. I'll take the report as read, and I will endeavour to answer questions if you have any.
All right. Yes, questions from Martin?
Kay,
And then Chris?
Kay, are you aware if the schools have to pay the Life Education Trust when they go into the schools?
Sorry?
Are you aware whether the Life Education Trust charge the schools to go in there?
I didn't think
I mean, that's
they
where they're
had.
based at, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going around all the different schools.
I didn't think so, but I can check for you.
If I can answer, it says that they charge them $12,000 per month to each of the schools.
They charge the schools
Based on the financials.
Let's have it.
Right. Chris is just saying they receive a grant from council as well. 12,000 a month for all schools, is that right?
It's quite a big,
There's something in here.
it's quite a big figure.
It is.
Talks about that.
Martin, you had a question too.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure whether people are aware of the Reflections Community Trust cancelled the light party for this year.
Oh, have they?
It just last week, I think it was,
Oh.
and I did check their Facebook page and they have announced that they have cancelled it. Unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, obviously the application's no longer viable then. They won't be needing it. The bouncy
Just
pass.
a question on that, Madam Chair. Will they or will they not? What are their costs up till now? Just because they've cancelled
What were they actually
doesn't mean
applying
to say
for?
that their costs haven't been the same. I'm not suggesting we should or shouldn't fund them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that their costs to this point could be. If I may suggest, I think it's probably worth going back to them to see if they have.
It's for trampoline mats,
Yeah.
for the hire of
They
them.
usually
Oh, okay.
do let us know if they want to withdraw their application, but I can double check that for you. You can maybe approve it subject to.
While Brent's looking for that, if we,
145,
Madam.
page 145.
Okay. I just wonder whether it's worth moving a procedural motion to let that lie on the table till next month.
Yes, good idea.
And that is the first one, the Reflections Trust. So I'm happy to move that, and that lies on the table until next month. Next meeting for further information.
Right, so Neville's moved that. John seconded.
Very good idea.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And looking at the life education, where did it have the 12,000?
It's income, school fees, total school fees.
Oh, total school.
12,000.
So $144,000 a year they get from the schools.
Right.
It'll be
Mm.
12,000 a month.
All right. Oh well. So we're leaving the first application. We'll move them one. Well, does someone want to move all three? The three remaining ones. They're all for $500. Do we want to do them individually? Individually?
Yeah.
So the first one, it takes a village. Would someone like to move the family day, the $500, so that they can host a family day to be held on the 20th of November? I wonder if they'll be able to hold that. Probably not.
Not when I expect 2,000 there.
No, that's right. So maybe if we leave that one, can we include that one in the other motion? Do I need to move it again?
I just, Madam Chair, if that's on 20th of November and they haven't cancelled, whether we're better off to put something in there that says, in the recommendation, that says, if cancelled, the grant won't apply.
Well, if it's not spent, it's got to be
Returned anyway.
Yeah.
We could put the subject to the
Subject
event
to.
taking place.
Yes, okay. That would be good. So moving on then to the Kew Boating Club.
I'll move
I'll second that too. So Chris is moving that the Kew Boating Club get $500 towards the purchase of 3 new propellers for the club's safety boats. Seconded by me. All those in favour?
Right.
Against? Carried.
The first one for it takes a village, you've agreed to subject to that, but
Yes.
you've got a mover and a seconder.
Oh, didn't we? Okay, so,
I'm happy to move based on those changes, Madam Chair.
okay, I'll second that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And then the final one, the Life Education Trust.
I'll move. Glasses will help you. Aye.
I'll second that.
Oh, okay, right. So Neville has selected I, which declines the application for the Life Education Trust Canterbury, and that's seconded by Chris. Would you like to speak to that, Neville?
Oh, look, I just think that this, the figure, I'd read the figure that Brent was talking about. We've funded these often on the way through. I just think that it's time that the government started looking after educational tools. And the only way for government to look after educational tools is to push the cost back to them. And by us continually funding small amounts, which the council already gives a grant anyway, by us funding those amounts, we don't actually get what should be paid for within the education system. And I believe that that should be done through the education system. And they've already proved that it's an essential item for them to have, and that they want to keep using it, so at least they fund it.
Thank you, Neville. Chris?
And I think, adding on to what you said, which I totally agree with, I don't believe we'd be the only board that they'll apply to.
No?
It would be a strange application just to send it to one board.
Hello.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would have been supportive of this grant. It's my understanding that the Life Education Trust does not receive any government funding. They have to arrange and gather up their own funds. I know they go to St Patrick's and Kaiapoi, and I suspect they also go to Burren North, but I have to check on that. I did have the opportunity to have a look through their truck, and it's quite impressive, the program they deliver. And my two grandchildren recently had a lesson, and the elder one had a session on puberty, and he told his mother when he got home it was disgusting. But notwithstanding that, I would have been supportive because I think they do an excellent job. The council does give them a grant of approximately $3,000. But apart from that, I'm not aware of any other funding. I did see they're also applying to other community boards, and the Woody Sefton Community Board last week approved a grant of $500.
Thank you, Philip. Right, well, we have a motion.
Right at the time, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think Councillor Redmond's just proved my point. If the other community boards have approved $500, then in totality, if that is 4 community boards, then that's another $2,000, which makes ratepayers funding $5,500, not $3,500. And I don't belittle the program, not for 1 minute. I also have grandchildren who go through it, and it's been around a long time. It is a very good program, but again, I reiterate, governments should be funding education in our district.
Thank you, Neville. Well, I'll put the motion. So it's to decline the application from the Life Education Trust. Moved by Neville, seconded by Chris Greengrass. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, so moving on now to the grant funding criteria. And once again, Kay is going to speak to us about that.
Right, this was a move from the Rangiora Ashley Community Board to try and get some clarity on funding schools, because it seems to always be a sort of a murky grey area. However, I will say, to date, all 3 other boards have opted to go to retain the status quo, even the Rangiora board. So it's up to you, I suppose. You're the last holdouts.
Right, okay. So, comments? Yes, Neville?
I asked for this to come back so we could workshop this, and I see it wasn't until I only read the agenda, to be honest, an hour ago, or an hour and a half ago, and saw this was on here. And Kay, you certainly weren't sitting in the seat you're in now. I asked for this to come back to us so we could workshop this and have a proper proper decision on this. One of the reasons was that I don't see that we should be following what other boards do. This is money that is to be spent within the Kaiapoi-Tuahiwi area, and to be decisions to be made by this board, not by other boards, and following the leader. We live in different parts of the world and we should be doing different things. So I actually don't want to see this go through in its form. I want to see it come back here so that we can actually workshop criteria on it.
Right. The reason why the other boards all opted to do the status quo was the very reason is that they felt that it was their own discretion and shouldn't be tied down too tightly on criteria. But I can leave it on the table and we can workshop it if you like.
I mean, if it is the status quo, we have got the discretion, haven't we, to approve it or not, each case. Which, is that not enough?
Well, yeah.
Looking at the merits of each
Well,
application.
I don't want to debate it without moving it. I'd rather move a procedural motion, but the reality is that we asked for it to come back here so we could do that, and it hasn't.
Okay. Well, if you could do that then, okay. Do I have to move anything?
Well, I'm happy to move that it lies on the table.
Right.
Is next meeting a reasonable time for a workshop? I mean, your staff are the ones that are under pressure. It's not a massive,
No, it's no problem at all.
and it won't change by massive amounts, I wouldn't think. But is that unreasonable?
No, it's
Chris?
not unreasonable. No problem.
Okay, for the next meeting.
Right, so Neville's moved that, seconded by we'll come back again. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. All right, thank you. Right, well, moving on then. We haven't got anything. We've got all the matters referred for information. If I just... my chair report I sent out this morning. Just something on there that's of interest. The Waimakariri Arts Trust that runs the Art Expo has given the board a certificate of appreciation. Isn't that sweet?
Is there a check?
Well, there is, and that's why I'm mentioning it. They're going to give $10,000 towards another sculpture on the riverbank.
Fantastic.
So I've been in touch with a sculptor this morning who I think can come up with something.
Madam Chair, can we write to the trust? Can you write to yourself? Sorry. Can we write to the trust thanking them, please?
All right. Do I move my report? Yes, right. So I'll move my report, which I sent out today. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Matters referred for information from 9.1 to 9.14. I recommend that the board receives the information. A seconder? Thank you, Chris.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I did have a request by the executive team that members please take a particular note of 9.14, which was the Three Waters Reform Report. 9.14.
Down the bottom there. Right, okay. Three water reform. Yeah. All right, so all those in favour? I haven't got a seconder. Did you? Yes, you did. Right. All those in favour? Against? Carried. With special reference to make sure everyone reads 9.14. Members' information exchange. We'll start with you, Neville.
Three Waters. Need I say any more? We have been donkey deep in Three Waters, to be totally honest. We've immersed ourselves in that, and it'll be interesting. I haven't heard anything today. The Mayor might fill us in later if there's anything that's come out. I can't imagine that too much has come out from the Cabinet meeting today that'll be riveting. I'd imagine it won't come out for a couple of weeks, but we're waiting to see. We're at Zone 5 and 6. Philip and I were there, and Dan, just on Thursday and Friday. And local government New Zealand made some pretty full apologies for the way in which they'd handled the Three Waters on behalf of local government. And just in a couple of particular manners that they had, and that was around the agreement and some of the clauses in which they'd put into the agreement, and hadn't actually asked the members of what it was that they wanted in there, and they made some pretty unreserved apologies, to be honest. So we'll see where that goes and find out in the next week or two what comes out of cabinet, because quite frankly we don't know. Normally there's whispers, because people love whispers, but they're pretty tight-lipped on this one. There's no leaks. There we are. No leaks on the Three Waters at the present time. So we'll see where that goes. In the property space, I've been working quite heavily. Again, Phil's on that committee as well, and we've been looking at where in the social housing space the council should be and where it sits. There is no conclusion on any of that as yet, because we've got a lot of properties to go through, as you can imagine, that sit there, whether it be just bare land, whether it's stuff that we own, and we just want to see where they fit and where they are. And of course, again, Three Waters plays a bit of a part in that, because we might have, we might have a 5-acre plot with an 800 square metre corner taken up by a pumping station, and of course, when your assets go across, we need to be very careful about what it is we're transferring. We're transferring 800 metres, or we're transferring 5 hectares. So all of that's being looked at the moment. It's a pretty full-on committee, and we were looking at that before Three Waters got to where it is now. But there's lots of other things that in the social housing, we have land, we don't have any money, and where can we fit social housing into our district? Right the way across with the land parcels that we already have, and what's the analysis on that? What's the needs of are we looking after just pensioners? Are we looking after transferable housing? What is it that we're looking after? And we're pretty much there. It's pretty clear that pensioner housing is a space we are already in, and that we want to move forward in. But Kaiapoi also have a pretty big program now where they're doing pretty comprehensive developments with pepper potting, and they're actually even including at the present time commercial as well. So they may have something near a CBD that they can put commercial, and then some state housing in, as well as going to the open market as well. So it's a very different way for them to be working to what they were, as well as with that putting the wraparound services around what it is that they're doing within those. So it's actually really interesting is what it is. The changes are really quite something. So watch this space, and we'll have something back here. We'll be coming back to the boards once we've had a report through to council. I think it's either November or early December that it will go to council, that report, and then we'll get it circulated to everybody, and hopefully we'll run a couple of workshops and get some input from the boards as well. Because sitting around this table there's quite a bit of knowledge around social housing, so we want to grab that as well.
Thank you, Nick. Good. Al.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't got a whole lot to report. Mahanga Kai area on the South Bank, the working group today did a walk around on that, and Greg and Makarini and Kevin kicked that off, so that is actually officially underway. Boats coming to the pontoon. If all the boats that are lined up and say they're coming actually arrive in the next 2 months, we'll have the whole marina, the whole pontoon full right to the bridge. In fact, Helen's starting to worry that we haven't got any space left. So that's all looking vaguely promising. The blow-up thingy on Courtney Lake is progressing. We're up to a pre-app, Chris, is that right, coming up with ECAN, or has that happened?
No, they've lodged both consents.
Both consents are lodged with us and ECAN, and they're, the thing that the actual structure is somewhere between China and here on a boat. So good luck with
I
that.
believe it's in Auckland.
Oh, it's in Auckland. Okay. Is that better than somewhere in between China?
I'm probably not
Sure about that.
And that's about all. I'll leave Jackie to talk about the Blackwall's Drummond installation, and that's me.
Thanks, Pat. Brent?
I've already sent around my members' exchange with the exception of, in terms of the design for the gazebo, which we hope to actually put into the food forest, the design will come back to this meeting, hopefully at the next meeting. Start working on that now. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Martin?
Just a couple of things of interest. One was Co-op Promotions hosted a presentation by council staff on the proposed district plan last Wednesday night. That was very well put together by the council staff. It wasn't a huge turnout, but the people who attended felt it was really worthwhile. Also met with Grant McLeod from the Green Place team a couple of weeks ago, looking at a piece of land next to the Kaiapoi Railway Bridge, which belongs to Kiwi Rail, who indicated that the council has a licence to occupy. The Kiwi Rail aren't happy to sell it, that it would then create a link all the way along the true right bank of the Kaiapoi River from Island Road down to basically to the mountain. That's the case. So the Kiwi Rail are quite keen to let it happen. Co-op Promotions, we're proposing a cultural festival on Show Friday. Due to all the certainty, we've just had to cancel that. And we've got a committee meeting on Wednesday night. We were seriously having to consider whether we cancel the Kaiapoi Christmas Carnival because there's just so much uncertainty about the way it would run. We've looked at a couple of options for traffic management, fencing and all sorts of things, but until we have some certainty from the government about how we can run events, it's just a minefield at the moment. We're trying to organise anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pity.
Thank you, next year.
Thanks, Martin. Chris?
No, I'm sorry, I've got nothing to report.
Okay. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Neville mentioned, we have been a bit preoccupied with Three Waters recently. The other thing, and Neville failed to mention, that he is one of two commissioners appointed by the council. Councillor Nicky Mealings and Neville are the two council appointed commissioners to hear submissions on the district plan. Creative New Zealand considered some applications last month. There weren't all that many, there were about half a dozen. There'll be a further round early next year, so if you know of any artistic type things that need some funding, keep an eye out for those. The ENC Business Awards are now on the 20th of November at Main Power Stadium. And I won't mention the Waimakariri Public Art Trust and the Blackwall's installation because you may mention that, Madam Chair. The representation review, we had a hearing earlier this month, and as far as this board is concerned, it proposes to confirm the status quo. We had a dangerous, affected and unsanitary buildings hearing last week, and you might think that's a sort of unusual sort of topic, but actually when you listen to these bylaws, they actually are quite interesting when you dig into them. The change in this area was an affected building has been introduced into the Building Act, and an affected building is one that is next to a dangerous building. So you could be at risk, possibly, if you're adjacent or next to a dangerous building. So I thought that sounded very good, but then I discovered that it excludes earthquake damage to buildings. So to have a dangerous building, it essentially has to be damaged by fire or some other peril, not an earthquake. Nonetheless, we're obliged to have these reviews every 5 years and have a policy, which we do. I attended the Zone 5 and 6 meeting with Neville and the Mayor, and they're always good meetings to get practical ideas. The future for local government, Jim Palmer has issued his first report, and that's available online if you haven't read it. And finally, the Coast Guard North Canterbury recently had its AGM, and they have a new president, Kevin Bryce, and a new secretary, Wendy Avarice. So they seem to be in good heart. So that's sort of the highlights of the last month or so.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
John?
Thanks, Jackie. I must say, great to see you here, Chris, and you will all know that I've had the, well, it's been a privilege really to be looking after your committees, really, Chris, in the sense of the Access team and the Darnley Club. And I was able to put your apology in and Chris's apology in that we had some excitement for the Access team that Eris, our secretary, on Friday, 3 days before the meeting, right, went in to dot the I's and cross the T's at the Kaiapoi Workmen's Club, only to find just one person there, and with the knowledge, and sorry, we're closed Mondays and Tuesdays, so we had a real challenge of getting a meeting venue to a point where, well, it took hours, and I ended up going to the information centre, which accommodated us quite nicely. But a real shame that the Workmen's Club didn't realise, didn't tell us that an AGM had to be advertised. It was a horrible wet day. We had to put somebody down there to point people in the right direction. So it was a bit of a fiasco, really. But it went off okay. And the Darnley Club, you're probably all aware, unfortunately, that the clients aren't in attendance because of COVID, are having those challenges. But it's a real pleasure to be part of that organisation, because it was recently at lunchtime today before I went to the town. Prior to coming here, I ran into the team taking around meals. The actual staff have been in operation right through. Making contact with the clients and cooking the meals if they go there on a Friday, for example, or on a Monday, they get meals taken to them by the staff and so on. So brilliant community exercise. The other thing on a positive note, you can't go anywhere, and I'm talking to the converted, the local drainage committees, it's the round of meetings, and there's a lot of people out there concerned about the 3 week, you know, but there's also a lot of people, and it comes back to the staff, doing a pretty good job, I think, looking at the budgets and the challenges. You'll always get challenges with those little committees. They can't get everything right all the time. But really supportive of what we're doing as a council, but concerned for the long term. That's it from me.
Thanks, John. That's good to hear that the Darnley Club are managing to carry on like that.
Oh, it's terrific. Brilliant. Proud to be part of it. Yeah, good. Missing this one then.
Yes, I bet. Yes, so if I failed to mention before about the Black Cause celebration, their 150th, and we had the installation of the Andrew Drummond. So I'd just like to thank the council for doing the installation in the first place and doing it in a very short time. COVID was the hold-up. But they managed to get it in the ground and it looks fabulous. And also thank Al, because he managed to get us a bargain, and so our money went a lot further than it would have otherwise. So thank you to both the council and to Councillor Blackie for your input on that terrific project. Okay, so moving on then, consultation projects. We've got the district plan, the speed limit review, closing soon, both of those. Regeneration projects, you can find the update online. The board funding update, we have $4,390 left after 12th of October, and the landscaping budget $25,430. And I believe that we're going to be discussing that at our next meeting, how we're going to spend that. It wasn't meant to be this meeting, but we had too many things here happening. So I don't think there are media items. The North Canterbury News did do a good article about the sculpture going in on the riverbank. I don't think we've got anything else. No questions under standing orders and no urgent general business. So the next meeting is on Monday the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Night. I declare the meeting closed at... Yes.
Monday the 15th of November.
Of course it is. It's the second week, not the first. Yeah, 15th of November. Thanks. Okay, Ken. All right, so now we've got a workshop